How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to an episode here on Let's Build Twitter. As always, I'm Ethan, or Unknown Coder, your favorite underqualified senior software engineer. And as always, if you guys do want access to a private repository, there is a link in the description down below that'll walk you through exactly how to do that. Been getting some more questions, so I'm going to try to make sure to actually remind you guys again. But that being said, let's actually talk about what we're going to work on today. Today, we're going to go ahead and continue working on some notification type things. Not necessarily specifically notifications, but we're going to make it so that we can actually make mentions inside of our post, and that'll tie into our notifications, because last episode we worked on actually being able to see some mentions. So here you can see this is still black. Also, I can see that there's still some issues here, and I figured out some of those bugs as well, so we're going to work through those. But the main goal is to get mentions working on the front end as well as on the back end. So I don't know how far we're going to get today, because it's quite a bit of code to get through, so this might be 2 episodes, but that's the goal. But without further ado, let's go and hop in the code and just get to work here. So we're going to go ahead and start out in the front end. What we need to go ahead and do is we need to go into the emojis util and actually make it so that the text inside of the post itself is going to be colored differently for a mention. So let's go into our source. It's going to be inside of our emoji utils. So I believe this is just inside utils and then emoji utils. Let's go and get rid of this. Now we need to scroll down to where we are actually mapping the text to element. So let's just scroll down here. So here you are. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually fix a bug that I found. So here where this says like tags.splice, this actually needs to be this right here. So creator question mark. So this is an issue that I found. This is why all the text looks so big. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to copy this location part right here, and let me actually copy it from the curly brace so I don't break anything, and we're just going to copy this into the span. So copy this, let's go ahead and bring it into this span here, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this class name. And this is kind of why I felt like things were kind of a little bit wonky. So let's go ahead and do that, and that should fix that issue with the text size being a little bit too big inside of our post. And then what we're going to go and do is outside, before we turn these tags, we're actually going to go ahead and change some things to make sure we can actually update where the mention is. So we're going to say tags are equal to tags.map. We're going to map through each tag, and then we're going to do a little bit of work here. So we're going to check to see if tags.props.children exist, and we have to do all of this because of sometimes for whatever reason they don't exist and it causes an undefined error. We're going to check that the type of our children dot props, and I messed this up, there should be tags, whoops, tags dot props dot children is equal to a string, because it could technically be like another element. And we're going to go ahead and check to see that tag dot props dot children dot starts with is going to be an @ symbol. So if it's an @ symbol, obviously it's a mention. And then we're also going to go ahead and check to see if tag.props. And this is going to be children, maybe, .length is greater than 1. So this is how we're going to kind of determine whether or not these are a mention. And I think I got everything. Basically, we're going to check to see the props.children. So what is inside of the element. We're going to see if that child is a string, so it's just text. We're going to see if it starts with an and it has more than one character, because in Twitter you can just have an @ symbol, but it doesn't necessarily light up blue if it's just an @ symbol. Let's go ahead, and if this is the case, we're going to say tag is equal to, we're going to go ahead and say tag, and then we're going to go ahead and say props : and we're going to say tag dot props, and then we're going to go ahead and say class name : and then we're going to go ahead and say location is equal to creator. So this is a little bit bigger text, that's why we have this. And we're going to work on setting this up some more CSS, but this is going to be feed post creator dash content and then paragraph, maybe if I could type, my goodness, dash mention. Otherwise, it's going to be post dash content dash mention. And we'll set up this CSS a little bit later. And then finally, of course, we will need to return the tag out of this map. So then we'll return the tag. So if it's not a mention, we won't touch it. If it is a mention, we will mess with it. And I messed all these up. So let's fix all these ones that say tags. and I think we're good to go. So this will go ahead and hopefully set things up blue for us. And we'll go through and kind of set up the logic for this inside of the other part too to do some other things. But firstly, I just want to get it to highlight for us. So that being said, now we can go ahead and move on to setting up a couple things. So another issue we're having is that we're not passing in the location. It's kind of breaking something. So we're going to go and fix that as well. There's a couple bugs here that we're fixing first. So let's go into the post content and fix this bug. So inside the post content, we're going to go ahead and pass in a location string inside the props. So location and string, and then let's go and pass it in to the function call as well. So we'll go ahead and say location, and then what we'll go and do is whenever we pass this, instead of just saying post, we'll pass in location. And I mean, technically probably didn't need to do this. It's probably okay hard-coded, but just in case we ever want to change something. So now this is going to break a bunch of things. So now we're going to go into our post component and fix this. So let's go into post component, and then let's scroll down to where our post content is. This one, well, for whatever reason, I can never find the post content, but it should be broken. So it should be somewhat easy to find, I hope. Here it is. Okay, so now let's go and bring in the location. Like I said, I probably didn't need to do it this way, but this will also help us out in the future if we ever need to like change something. So there's that. Then let's go into the individual post and also fix it in there. So let's scroll down on our individual post and try to find where our post content is. This one's a little bit easier to find. Once again, we'll say location is equal to post, and that should fix up that and make it a little bit more flexible. So now we're not really going to see anything. We might see that the post content is a little bit smaller if we save all. Let's see if it looks like it's smaller. So now you can see this is a little bit smaller, and I think that this text is actually a little bit small as well. So what I want to do is I want to make this text a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and hop in and set up some CSS to make the text bigger, as well as set up the CSS so we can actually start working with mentions. So let's hop back into our code, and what we're going to go and do is we're first going to go into feed post creator, and here it doesn't matter where the CSS is. I'll just kind of look where the content is right here. So here we'll have dot feed dash post creator, whoops, and then this will be dash content dash paragraph dash mention, and then here we'll have font dash size. This will still be 20px. I probably didn't need to do it like this, but it is what it is. Font weight is going to be 400, and then color, whoops, will be pound 1D A1 F2. So it's going to be Twitter blue. Okay, and then now let's go into the post CSS to set up dimension. So this is going to be where it is everywhere else. So let's go into post. So here on post, right, again, let's just kind of scroll down to where our other like text is, or like the other CSS classes is for this. So it's going to be here. So firstly, I'm going to set this font size to 16. It doesn't need to be set to 16, but I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. For whatever reason, the font on Twitter seems bigger as 15. So but next we're going to say post content mention, and it's going to be very similar. So width we fit dash content. We probably don't need all of this, but it is what it is. Height will be fit content. We'll have font dash maybe size 16px, and margin will be 0. Padding will be 0, and we'll have color as pound 1D A1 F2 Twitter blue, and then font dash weight will be 400. And I believe theoretically we should be able to actually see the difference in color as long as I set everything up properly, and hopefully I don't have to debug. But let's hop into the app and just see and make sure everything's looking okay. So if we come in here, we're not going to see too much going on, but if we can say like what is up and then at HELLO, you can see that it's turning blue. It's black here, and then we can say like Rick, and then what's going to happen is going to be a pop-up that comes down and says Rick. So this is looking good. And then maybe inside notifications, I don't know why that's purple. Something is weird with this one, so I might have messed up the color. Let's see what's going on with the color there. This should be, I think, 1D, right? Let's double check the color again. There we go. Everything's looking good. Also, for whatever reason, when I click on these posts, the stop propagation is not working. I'll have to deal with that at some other time. Not too worried about it. And there's something slowing down that we'll need to look into. Let's not worry about that. Let's just keep moving forward. Let's go and set up some state so that we can actually open up the little modal that pops up whenever you are searching for someone to mention. So let's come back in here. Let's go into our modal slice. And inside of our modal slice here, we're going to set up a new display. So we're going to go ahead and say display. This will be mention, and actually no, this will be display post mention, which is a Boolean. And then we'll come down here and set up our initial state like we do. So here we'll say display post mention. We'll start out as false like we normally do. We'll come down here. I really should have set this up slightly differently, but whatever, I guess. This will be update and display post mention. This one will be slightly different. We're going to send in the state. We're also going to have an action of payload action, and this will be a Boolean. Because of the way the logic works, we need to set it up this way. And this will be state is equal to ... state, and then our display post mention will be action.payload, and then we will go ahead and return the state. And let's see what's going on. Okay, it's just mad for a second. And then down here, we'll go ahead and return this. So here we'll say update display post mention, like so. We don't want to call it. So there's that. That's all set up and good to go. Now we need to go and do kind of like the fun part of setting up all the logic inside of our create post text area that'll actually pop up a modal whenever we're searching for someone. So let's go into our create post text area. So here, let's go ahead and just set up some states. So underneath our state here, we're going to go ahead and say const mentioning equal to use selector. And then we'll say state and root states. And this will be state dot modal display post mention, like so, if I could type. And then we still need our dispatch. That's fine. And then underneath this conduit, we're also going to go ahead and set up a const. And this is going to be mentioned user and set mentioned user. I might do some debugging and change this and try to get rid of the state. I think it's lagging behind slightly. It's not really affecting too much. I might try to figure out a way to get rid of this, but to get this episode out, I'm going to go ahead and keep it as is. So now I need to make some modifications inside of our text area here. So I think we can just go above this location. That's probably okay. We're going to go ahead and say const content is equal to text content. And this is going to go ahead and get our elements and stuff for us. We're going to say if our content.elements, and then we're going to say content.elements.length -1 .props .class name .includes. So this is a little bit messy and mention. So we're going to basically see if this is a mention class. If that's the case, we're going to go ahead and say display and not display, whoops, dispatch. And then we're going to dispatch updates display. And this is going to be, what are we going to display? Post mention. There we go. And that's going to be true. And then we'll also go ahead and say set mentioned user. And we're going to go and set that to content.elements and content.elements.length -1 .props .children .substring maybe and 1. So the reasoning behind this second one, the mentioned user content elements yada yada yada, is because if you're hitting the back button and you come back into it, you want to be able to actually pop it back open again. So we're going to go ahead and say otherwise. We'll go ahead and dispatch, and we'll dispatch our updates display post mention, and this will be false. So if we're not inside of one of those basically elements of the class no mention, we're not touching it, we won't display the modal. If we are, we will display the modal. And I think this is kind of why we have the mention user here, just to kind of keep track, but I don't know that it's 100% necessary, because as you'll see next, what we're going to go and do is we're going to come down here and we're going to go ahead and set up a use effect. The use effect, and this is going to go ahead and watch the content and the mentioned user. And it doesn't quite work 100% the way that I like it to. It works, but I'd like to make it a little bit smoother if I can figure out some time to kind of research it. This will basically at least allow us to open up and close the modal effectively. Now the last thing we'll go and do is we'll just make sure that this is kind of working as we expect. So here we'll just go ahead and put in mentioning, maybe. And if we're mentioning, let's just go ahead and put a fragment. And then we'll just go ahead and say mentioning and then mentioned user. So we can kind of see whether or not we're actually mentioning someone. So we hop back in. Let's just make sure the logic we put in kind of works here. So we come back in here and we say, what's up at Rick. You can see it's like a state behind, but it's not going to hurt anything whenever we are searching because we do a fuzzy search. I didn't have a lot of time. I'm kind of getting behind on videos here. I just want to get this working, and then I'll put a ticket in to kind of research and figure out what's going on with that. So now let's go ahead and create our first component of the day, and that's going to be a create mention post modal to kind of pop up and show the different options for users to mention. So let's hop back into our code again. Let's go ahead and open up our Explorer, and I think I put this inside a post. So I'm going to go into our post components, and this is going to be create mention post modal / creates mention post modal.tsx, and then we're going to go ahead and say create mention post modal.css, and let's go into the tsx file. And I believe I put that in the right place. I've been doing a really bad job putting things in the correct places. We'll import React from React. And this isn't a massive one, so this one shouldn't be too bad. Let's go and import our CSS. So // I've been having a really bad time of actually importing CSSs in the last couple episodes, so I want to make sure we do this. So we'll bring in the CSS, and then we also gonna have an interface that we'll call create mention and post modal props. We probably didn't need this. We probably could have put this into its own thing, but content will be a string. And then we'll have a user clicked function that we pass along. This will be username string and return a void. So what are we going to do whenever someone actually clicks on one? That's the kind of thing that stinks about some of these that actually have logic. You have to make a little bit of complicated stuff, but it should be okay. Go and export const our create mention post modal react.function component, and this will take in our create mention. I don't know why it's not showing up, but post modal props, and then we'll break these apart with content and user clicked, and hopefully I didn't scuff anything. Okay, it looks fine now. And then let's just go ahead and return a div really quick just to make it happy and make sure we don't have anything broken. So div class name is equal to post. Actually, it's create mention dash post dash modal. I believe I spelled everything properly. Okay, it's not mad. So I think everything is looking good. Let's come back up here and let's just go and say const. And this is something we're going to set up in a second inside of our other thing, but we're going to say update search content. We're going to say search for users, and we're going to say search results or search result users, like a type, are going to be equal to use context. We're going to use that discovery context that we set up a while back, and I want to make sure we actually grab the right thing because last time it was kind of being a pain. So discovery context type. So we'll have to come back into our post content and actually wrap this inside this discovery content, but we'll get to that point in a second. And then we'll also go and say const user state is equal to use selector, and we need to bring in that as well. State root state, should have brought that in as I was typing it because now it's broken. Let's go and fix this. So state root state, there we go. And this will be state.user. It's going to bring in the entire user state. And let's go ahead and bring in use selector. Let's bring it up here, I guess. So import and use selector from React Redux. And that's almost everything. Let's just go ahead and set up a use effect. Again, this is to kind of get it to reload when we want. So hopefully we shouldn't need this. but things weren't exactly working the way we wanted. But it's going to be update search content. So every time our content changes, we'll update the search content, and we will search for users every time our content changes. So anytime that we're typing, we have a mention and our mention modal is open, we're going to go ahead and search for new users. There's that. So that's pretty simple. We're going to have some curly braces, and we're going to go ahead and say search results. Search result users. We're going to slice. We're going to only grab 10 of them. So we'll say 0, 0, 10. And then we're going to say dot map. And I think everything is good. We'll map through each user. We're going to do some code. So here, let's go ahead and return. Have another return. We'll have a div, the class name equal to create dash mention dash post dash user dash card. On click, will be a function. And inside the function, we'll say user clicked, and we'll pass in that user.username. So we click on this specific card, we'll go ahead and pass that in. Next, we'll have a div with a class name equal to, and this will be check following. We need to bring this in from our user service. And here we'll pass in the user state dot following, and we'll pass in the user. So we're going to check to see if we follow that user. Question mark. If we do, we'll go ahead and say create dash mention dash post user dash f or pfp dash wrapper. Otherwise, we'll do nothing. For whatever reason, they decided to do the styling a little bit different depending on if you follow the person or not. So this will be profile picture, and then user will equal to the user that we are searching, and size is equal to 40. I'm so happy we have a profile picture thing now. It's so much nicer. Below this, we'll go ahead and have a div, the class name equal to create dash mention dash post dash user dash info. And then inside here, I have another div, the class name equal to create dash mention dash post dash user dash nickname maybe dash bar. And inside our nickname bar, we'll have an h2, the class name, and I'm sure I'm going to miss something here. Create mention post user dash nickname. And inside our nickname, we'll have user dot nickname. Below the nickname bar, we'll have curly braces. We'll say user dot verified account. And if it's a verified account, we'll go ahead and say verified SVG. Actually, this is a verified icon. So we're going to have to bring this in. So let's go ahead and try to bring this in really quick. So here are verified icons. So import verified icon from at MUI icons material / verified. I believe that should bring that in. And then we need to do a little bit of styling. So SX equal to, so for styling, we'll say color will be pound 1D A1 F2, our Twitter blue color. I have width. I don't know if this is supposed to be 20px, but we did 20px, and let's make sure we actually do this properly. So 20px. We'll do height as 20px as well. 20px. And then below here, we'll have another set of curly braces, and we'll say user.organization. And we'll say, and if that's the case, we'll have an img class name equal to create dash mention dash post. I don't think I ever set this up either, so I need to go back and look for this. User dash organization, I believe is how you spell it. And we'll have src equal to, and this will be user dot organization, and I spelled organization wrong, so fix that. Organization the image URL, and I believe this is safe because if they have an organization, they have an image. The way that we set it up, backticks $, curly brace, user dot username apostrophe s, and then we'll say organization. Let's go ahead and close this image tag. So that's good to go. And now we just have a couple more things to set up here. So now this is where things get a little bit confusing. So outside of the div for the nickname bar, we're going to go ahead and have a p class name equal to, and this will be create dash mention dash post dash text. And here we'll have at, and then user dot username. And then once again, we're going to say check following, and we're going to go ahead and check the following for user state dot following and user. We're going to say and we're going to go ahead, and if they are following, we're going to have a special span. We're going to say span class name equal to, and then create dash mention dash post dash text. And inside, we're going to go ahead and set up a follow notification SVG with height, whoops, equal to 12. If I could type, that'd be cool. Height 12, width will equal to 12, and color will be our grayish color. So this would be AA, B8, and C2. And then here, this will say following. So that should technically be everything for this. I'm running out of time here. We're already at like 30 minutes. I don't want these to be too long. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of course correct here. And we're going to go ahead and just set it up so we can see this really quickly. And then what we'll go and do is next episode, we'll style it up and then make some more modifications to make it a little bit more efficient. So let's go back into our post content. And what we need to go and do is, I forget where we put this, and this is not the right thing. What do we need to go into? We need to go into create post content maybe. So here inside of our create post text area, we're going to go and just wrap this entire thing inside discovery provider. So discovery provider, like so. And then let's go ahead and delete this. And we're going to go ahead and just wrap the whole div. We probably could have just wrapped the top part, but I'm going to go and just wrap the entire thing just to be safe. The discovery provider, and then let's go ahead and space CF. So now theoretically, this should provide the context to our modal, and we should be able to come in here, and we should be able to get rid of this guy. Okay, so now that we have our discovery provider and I figured out whatever I broke, we're going to go and say, and we're going to go ahead and bring in our, I believe it is our create mention post modal. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Mention post modal. This shouldn't take anything in, although it does take things in. So this needs our content, and this will be equal to content, and it needs a user clicked. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and set this up as a function that just takes in like nothing basically. So I don't know how this will actually work. So we'll say, I don't think it's going to like that. Yeah, let's see. How do I want to do this? Let's try a string maybe. Does that make you happy? No. We need to go ahead and just at least set up the skeleton for const select mention really quick, and we'll set this up in the next episode when we have more time. Say username colon string, it's a void, and then here whenever user clicked, we can go ahead and pass in that select mention. It's not going to do anything currently, but it'll at least be happy. So select mention, we need an equal sign, of course. There we go. So now this is going to be really ugly, but at least we should hopefully be able to see the users popping up and everything. And if we don't, I'll debug it for a second here. Let's hop into our front end one more time before I wrap up the episode and just see what it's looking like before we wrap up. Now, if we refresh, you can see that the text size is smaller on some of these posts. We can come back in here. We can say, what's up at Rick? And why is this not popping up? So it seems like for some reason mentioning isn't activating. Let's just console.log what's going on here. So console.log mentioning and console.log the content maybe. And let's just see why this isn't working. Inspect console and true. So it's true. So it should be popping up. And it's on the top, create mention post modal. Mentioning set the true. We shouldn't need to set up any CSS for this. It should still at least pop up on the top. It is there, but the content is missing. Okay, so let's go back into our create mention modal. Maybe something's not quite right there. So let's go ahead and console.log the content, make sure the content's getting passed in properly in here. You know what? I think we messed up what we need to pass in here. We don't want to pass in the content. We want to go ahead and pass in the mentioned user as content. And I think that's the problem. Let's go back one more time to our create post content area. And instead of having content, it's not finding anything. We actually want to pass in mentioned user, I believe. And let's try this. There we go. So now you can see we have Rick, we have Summer, we have Mort Dog, we have a couple people, and we're gonna go ahead and work on making it so that whenever this is here, Rick doesn't, or not Rick, Morty doesn't go away. But I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I know it doesn't look pretty, but we got kind of like the hard logic done. And then in next episode, we'll go through and make it look pretty, and we'll also go ahead and optimize that searching. That way it doesn't kind of lose some people. I figured out what's going on with that, and we're also going to go ahead and just do a couple other bug fixes and things like that and make mention notifications work as well. As always, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Everything helps out here on the YouTube algorithm. Sorry I didn't quite get everything done, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up in the next episode. As always, guys, if you do want to see where we started from absolute nothing to where we are now, there should be a playlist in the description down below that has all of those videos in it from 0 to now. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys have a great day. This has been Ethan on Coder, and I'll see you guys in the next video.